Welcome to season 2 of the Mental Notes podcast. I'm Manny, and today we have a very special guest, somebody that I've had the pleasure of knowing for a few years now.
Because I've got a very vivid memory of when I was around about 10. I remember she was holding my brother's head here, and my head here, and she was just rocking backwards and forwards saying, "It's going to be okay." It's still quite painful. It's my life, mate. Like, at the time, I was so scared.
My name is Manny DeJourna. I am the founder of Mentality. Mentality is a platform designed for men and women, but more specifically for men, to help us become better pillars of society. We do this through our media arm, our events arm, our services, and our community arms. In essence, creating a tribe and an environment where we men can support each other, learn from each other, grow with each other, and become, as I said, better pillars of society moving forward across all the interactions that we have in life. Welcome to season 2 of the Mental Notes podcast. I'm Manny, and today we have a very special guest, somebody that I've had the pleasure of knowing for a few years now. I first met Dan a few years ago when we happened to engage over socials, and then we met up and then came on your pod.
Yeah.
A chat with Dan, right?
Yeah, I think we went on for about 2.5 hours, didn't we?
Just lost track of time,
Yeah.
totally lost track of time. But Dan Leese is our guest today. Dan's an ex-Michelin star chef who has kind of navigated his way through, transformed himself to being an entrepreneur today. He's got a very interesting past story that we're going to delve into. But it basically tracks from a very difficult past where he could have ended up in prison, didn't, thank God, and managed to navigate his way to today being a very, very, very successful entrepreneur with a passion for skincare. Dan, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
It's a pleasure.
It's
a
always
pleasure.
hard hearing the other side because I'm the one so used to doing the intros, you know?
Yeah. No, I try and make the intros very kind of not too in depth, but enough to kind of inspire
Yeah. People to
wanting
listen.
to hear more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. So in all this, I mean, I've kind of touched on a little bit of the fact that, there's a very interesting story to speak about.
Yeah.
But really, who is Dan Leese? Like, how would you describe yourself for people that don't know you?
It's a good question because I think I'm a character that's constantly evolving. You
Mm.
know, I think each year I'm pushing the boundaries of what I didn't expect myself to achieve.
Mhm.
Like this year, for example, I made it all about fitness and I wanted to push my body to limits where it wasn't necessarily about the fitness, it was more about the mindset.
Nice.
So like stuff that I never thought was possible. And, you know, who am I? So first of all, I'm the founder of a skincare brand called Andsom Skin. That was an idea that developed in COVID in my kitchen. In a very kind of like condensed way, I had a reaction to some products I was using, and through my own podcast,
Yeah.
someone had actually said to me, about consumer products, if you don't understand the ingredient, neither does your body. So that stuck in my head. So when I was having these reactions, I decided to check the ingredients, and I was horrified what you can find in them.
Mhm.
And it started by me ordering all the raw ingredients. Then I would make my own formulations at home, give it to friends, see what they thought, and then I had a customer base. So then
Amazing.
developed it from there. So that's me as the founder, me as the person. I think I've got a lot of love to give, you know.
I've experienced that myself in
Oh,
the conversations we've
yeah.
had. Yeah.
I'm fascinated by people and their pasts, you know. I feel like I'm quite introverted now. Like I like to have my own time, but I love to connect in a very intimate way.
Yeah.
Meaning deep conversations, finding out about those people. I think being able to understand other people's pasts actually enables me to develop a little bit more emotional intelligence because, you know, when I was younger, I used to react just the way people would react to me. But then when I got to understand a little bit more about humans and that everyone's got like challenging pasts somewhere along the line, it just enabled me to help understand that, you know, everyone's going through their own thing. So that's helped me evolve as an individual. But yeah, just as I said, the people that are close to me, I'm very I care a lot for them. Very protective over the people that I love.
Yeah.
Um, I'm I don't know where it came from, but like super driven. I think maybe because my mum instilled hard work values in me when I was younger. It was like she taught me the fundamentals of, if you want to have a nice life,
Yeah.
you got to work for it. So you know, I openly work from the moment I open my eyes to the moment I close them. But I kind of like it in a weird way. But yeah, just that I'd say that's kind of me. Very
I love
caring,
that.
very loving, and just hard worker.
I also have a genuine interest in understanding how people's backgrounds shape who they are today. So you like to investigate people's backgrounds
Yeah.
and their upbringings and that journey. I'm curious to hear about yours. And if I remember correctly, yours started in Northampton.
Yeah.
What was Northampton like?
So it's really funny when I think about this, because I've got a very vivid memory of when I was around about 10, and pre 10.
Mm-hmm.
Life used to just be like clouds, rainbows, happy, smiles, everything. And then I just remember this one day where I felt like everything had changed. Like I felt like I'd seen the world in a different light. I'd
Mm.
seen bad stuff happens. I've seen that there are not very nice people out there and that type of stuff. So up until the age of around 10, as I said, like Northampton was always nice. It was my home. It was where I grew up. I loved to be outside. I loved to play. The youngest of three. Always had a really close relationship with my siblings, even though me and my brother were quite close in age. I think we're about 16 months apart.
Mm-hmm.
We used to fight a lot, but we had a phenomenal
As
bond.
most boys do.
Yeah, I mean, we'd punch the hell out of each other, but then be like best mates the next day. So that was the type of relationship we had. But yeah, then and I had working class family, so always was used to like mum going to work, dad working nights, being a lorry driver. So yeah, just a very typical working class family. We used to have like little things where we'd have Sunday roasts, which we loved and always looked forward to. My mum's a big cook,
Yeah.
so loved being at home for that. And we always used to have like little like tea parties on a Sunday evening as well, with the
Love
little
that.
Mr. Kipling
Yeah.
cupcakes and stuff like that. So I had like really fun memories. But as I said, I think when I got to about the age of 10, um, I started to see the world differently. I started to recognize my dad was quite an angry guy.
Okay.
Although I just saw him as my dad, he was sometimes quite verbally abusive and
To you, to the
yeah, to
family?
all of us, yeah. And then on the odd occasion, also physically abusive as well. But you just associate it with just being your parent.
Mm.
And like, even up until about the age of early 20s, I still had a strong bond with my dad. And just, when I think when you're younger, you just think, your mindset is your mum's your mum, your dad's your dad.
Of course, yeah.
And this is just what family's like. You don't get to see, behind closed doors of other families. So you just think this is just normal life.
Mm.
But then my parents broke up when I was around 12, 13, but it'd been brewing for a while, because, my dad had been arrested for abusing my mum.
Wow.
And like, yeah, pretty chaotic situations. Like, my mum's actually here at the moment, and we were having dinner last night, and we were talking about some of the memories and stuff, because I don't ever tell her about the memories that I remember, but I actually said to her yesterday about a memory when my dad got very angry one time, and she had to like protect us and lock us in the room. And
Wow.
like, I remember she was holding my brother's head here and my head here, and she was just rocking backwards and forwards saying, "It's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay." And my dad was like smashing, trying to get in the room, because he was so angry. Like, he just had serious like anger issues. So like, this was the type of stuff that was happening on quite a regular basis when
Mm.
we were 10, 11, 12, 13. So my mum kind of had no choice but to just one day just leave him. And then she ended up meeting my now stepdad, Paul, um, who loved dearly, see him like a second father figure, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. And I talk more to Paul now than I do my own dad. So, but at the time it was very disruptive. And this was kind of like the formating years of like me as an adult.
Of
And
course.
my mum, rightly so, was she was married to my dad for 18 years, and I think being older now and reflecting, she was in, I don't know how long prior to obviously us being born, but if it was anything like when we were old enough, in a relatively abusive relationship. So she was neglected, didn't feel love, and then obviously we had a really close bond. Um, but then obviously when she found the new guy, and you know what it's like when you fall in love,
Of
I
course.
knew those feelings and stuff, and it was kind of like she felt that we were at the age where we didn't need her so much anymore, and because she'd craved that love for so long, we were kind of, uh, mm, in my opinion, an afterthought, and the first priority was the new love. And again, we've all been there. Like, when you meet that person
Yeah.
and you fall in love so deeply that it's like nothing else in the world matters apart from that person. But unfortunately for us, she still had 3 kids.
Mm.
And obviously, this is my perspective, and I know maybe she might listen to this and get a bit upset and stuff. But it was just our perspective on the situation. But because I was the youngest of three and she wasn't around as much, I kind of started to like steer off path, you know. I mean, I remember one time, just to give you an idea of the type of guy my dad was, when I was like 13, 14, I went to a barbecue and he got me smashed on absinthe because he
At
knew
13.
at 13, yeah, at a barbecue, he got me smashed. He was getting me to do shots of absinthe and stuff like that with his mates. Um, and he knew that I was getting picked up by my mum. So it was like,
Getting back at her
I'm
for.
sure in his mind, he was like, I'm gonna get Daniel so drunk that she has to deal with it when she comes to pick him up.
Wow.
And it was like, it was a time of reflection where I realized later on, looking back, that all of his actions were to get back at my mum because he
Mm.
was just so, he just didn't want to have a nice life, you know?
Why do you think that was? What do you think it was that led him
He
to.
was just an angry guy, mate. Honestly, like, as I said, I loved him. I mean, we don't talk anymore because we just had our differences, and as I became older, he was still that angry guy, and as you become a man, you're just like, I'm not tolerating this anymore.
Yeah.
And I will stick by this mindset of, it doesn't matter if you're my best friend, you're my brother, sister, mum, dad, whoever you are. If you stop adding value to my life, goodbye. Because I've
I hear
just,
that.
it just, I feel like, you've got to protect the only person you live with 24/7 is
Correct.
yourself. So you got to protect yourself at all times. But just like, he was just angry. I remember times where I'd come home from school and we'd be making, I mean, you imagine, we're kids, we're making noise, we're playing in the
Mm.
background, in the back garden, playing football or basketball, whatever we were doing.
Mm.
And I remember one time he came down and he was so angry. He was like this in my face, like, for anybody that can't see, like, it's like, or listening on
Close,
audio,
yeah.
it's close, like nose to nose touching, and he's screaming just because I made noise,
Mm.
like screaming to the point where he's spitting in my face. So like, I don't know, maybe he was even bipolar because one minute he'd be like very caring and loving, and then next minute he would be, you know, so angry, so like more mentally abusive
Yeah.
than physical. But you just didn't know which person you were getting. And every time it happened, it would be like my mum would take us, because my auntie used to live down the road. So we'd constantly going there because we'd have to call the police, and
Of course, yeah.
yeah. And all this stuff was happening. And then every time it'd be like, I'm really sorry, it's not going to happen again. And then it would be okay for a couple of weeks. And then it would happen again, So, and I can't put, I mean, he's obviously got his own kind of situation that he never really told us about. But
Yeah.
you know, as I said at the beginning, everyone suffers with their own kind of thing, and
Of course.
I just think he wasn't able to deal with what he was going through. But it was just, it was just, when my parents broke up, it was so disrupting for me personally, from my point of view, because I'd go to my dad. My dad was doing anything to kind of poison my brain on how I
Mm.
looked at my mum. I lived with my mum, so I'd go home, and then Paul moved in as well, and I was just, I didn't like the authority of Paul, because my dad was like
You
kind of
wouldn't
like,
do at that time.
exactly, and it was just chaotic. Like, I take my hat off to my mum because, like, I mean, I was so disruptive. I was still that caring, kind, loving kid, but I was going through so many emotions. My mind was getting kind of like twisted by outside noise, and you combine that with the fact that you're going through puberty, you're
Yeah.
growing into a man, all this
Yeah.
stuff. I was just, the second I had a drink, it was just like I'd explode sometimes, and that inevitably got me in more trouble later on.
Yeah. We'll delve a little bit deeper into what that transpired like. But I'm curious to understand. So you've got this split dynamic at home, right? Dad lives separate from mum. Paul's now in the picture. Paul's obviously trying to make a happy home.
Yeah.
But there's that resistance, which is natural because, I mean, like any kid, right? He's not your dad. Your dad's
Yeah.
what you've known. And irrespective of the fact that dad may be disruptive, that's still dad.
Yeah.
How did you and Paul kind of, build that relationship?
We didn't, to be honest. We struggled for so many years. Well, he didn't struggle because he tried his hardest. I struggled.
Mm.
He, again, being able to reflect, like he came into a house and took care of 3 kids, was helping to pay the bills, pay for food. Like everything that he did was like kind of like, wow, like not many men would do what he
Yeah.
done, you know? And it was, I think I just struggled because it was a new man. Plus my dad was like, he was filling me with all sorts of like, your mum cheated on me.
Mm.
She did this because of this. And in my mind, I'm thinking, my dad's the victim. My dad's the victim. My dad's the victim. I'd go home, see my mum happy in this new relationship, and I almost felt anger towards the fact that like she had this, but my dad's like borderline suicidal.
Mm.
My dad couldn't even listen to music because he would start crying. He was that bad. I'd go to his house on a Saturday, and I felt bad. It got to a point where I didn't go because I wanted to see him. I went because I was scared what he would do if I wasn't there, or if I said I don't want to come this
Wow.
weekend. And I remember there was this one song by The Streets, and I used to love listening to it. And he would be like, "You've got to listen to that like with headphones because I can't tolerate. It's gonna send me over the edge." Like it was really bad. Like it was, again, just when I was younger, it just felt like I was just needed to protect my dad. But then, and to be honest with you, even this amount of detail of like the songs and stuff, I've never
Mm.
spoken about like what this was like. So even like I'm sure my brother, if my mum or anyone listens to this, will be like, "Wow, like they didn't realize it was this bad," because my brother and my sister were kind of the age to be like, "Well, I'm just going to do my own thing." My brother was very good at he was always a relationship guy, so he always had girlfriends, and
Yeah.
he would go to their house instead of like seeing my dad. And because it got to the point where it wasn't that enjoyable anymore, they would not go, and I'd be the one that would go.
Have you ever had the conversation with your siblings regarding that period of time and emotionally? I mean, you mentioned that they would escape it by going out with friends and
Yeah.
girlfriends and so on and so forth. But have you ever had that conversation as to how they were impacted during that period?
Well, my sister was very vocal about not speaking to my dad after we went on a holiday one time, because he apparently said some things to her, and everyone used to see, like, because I used to go see my dad all the time. They always used to think I was his favorite, and they always just joke
Golden
around
child.
like, yeah, exactly. When in reality, it was just because he needed me. So like, and I was the only one that would go. But in answer to your question, no, we have never really spoke about. My sister never wanted to talk about what he said. My brother's, quite close in his feelings as well. And for me, I suppose, like, although I've spoken in therapy and, and I have spoken a little bit more openly about the situation, in the same breath, like these types of feelings I really bottled up for a long time. I
Mm.
just kind of like bottled it up and just tried to move forward.
Do you know what I find interesting is even now, speaking about it, you still reference the point that he needed you.
Mm.
Like, where does that come from? Where does that mindset of he needed me come from?
'Cause I
Especially
think,
now that you mentioned that you
yeah,
don't have that relationship, yet the narrative is still he
yeah.
needed me.
Well, the narrative of needing is because the second I moved to Dubai, he made no effort. He made no effort to come see. He's never been to Dubai. This is coming up to going into my 12th year now. For about the first 5 years, I kept saying to him, like, "When are you going to come see me?" Like, he wouldn't message me to see if I was okay. He wouldn't, like, when I first moved here,
Mm.
once I asked him if he could help me because I was struggling with money. and I wanted to come home for Christmas, and he did pay for my flight and that. But it was like every time I went back, it was like he would have. I'd always like suggest, let's go watch the football, let's go do this together, let's do it, or try and do things together.
Yeah.
But it never really came. It was never initiated from him. You know, it was always me saying, let's do this, let's do that. He'd never really message me and be like, how are you? Every time I saw him, it was always negative,
Mm.
complaining, hating his life. And it just got to the point where I was just a bit like, kept saying to him, like, are you gonna make an effort? And the where the needed me came in is the lady that he met. They then had her daughter had a child, and they was very close to the
That
child.
child. Okay.
And I think because he had somebody that was in his life that prioritized his time all the time, he didn't need me anymore. So he
Mm.
just kind of stopped making the effort.
Do you think that verbiage of "he needed me" is something that you have used to make yourself feel more at peace with the relationship you had with the past?
I haven't really
Yeah.
processed it. It's just kind of like it's like the automatic reaction. I think, but at the time, like generally, like I was worried that he would kill himself if I wasn't
Mm.
around. You know.
You mentioned specifically something happened at 10 that shifted your whole mindset. Do you
Yeah.
remember what that was?
Yeah. So for anybody that knows Northampton, there's a little campsite called Billing Aquadrome. And God knows why people go there on holiday, but it's like quite famous. Not famous, but like a lot of people go and take caravans and tents and
Mm.
stuff and stay there in this campsite. Again, not sure
It's
why
a wonder of the
Northampton.
world.
Huh?
It's a wonder of the world.
Yeah. But then we used to go there like and ride our bikes because we live quite close to it. So we'd ride down.
Mhm.
And I just remember being in Billing Aquadrome one time and something just switched in my head. I was like, I think something had happened where maybe some kids had started on us. And it was like the first time we'd encountered other kids wanting to like attack us.
Mm.
And it was like, I think I was with my brother or something like that. And I just thought, wow, like this is crazy. Like somebody wants to try and hurt me. Like why would anyone want to try and hurt me?
Right.
And that was the shift for me because up until that point, we just used to love having fun and riding our bikes and going all around the countryside and stuff. But then when that happened, I was a little bit more kind of anxious about, life. And because when I was at school, it was lower, middle, and upper, not primary and
Of course,
secondary.
yeah.
So like lower school is like all kids. Middle school is kind of like you're still friendly with each other because
Yeah.
you've not really developed in. But then upper school was like where
You
the
found
little
yourself.
shits
Yeah.
were like prevalent, and the bullying was like if you were kind of not a part of the it crew, you got bullied.
So which crew did you?
I kind of sat in the middle.
Okay.
I had a few fights with the guys that I mean, just to give you context as well of how rough the school I went to. And this was actually, it was quite good that we're talking about this now because it was another reason why I had conflict with my mum because I wanted to go to a school it's called the Northampton Boys School.
Okay.
And if you look at the England rugby team, there's a lot of lads that come out of the Northampton Boys for school because the Saints are quite close, and it's just a good school for sports. And I wanted to go there, and my mum was like, obviously, single mum, three
Yeah.
kids, and she was like, it's just more convenient if you go to the school with the brother and sister. Because she was still kind of like unbeknown to what was actually going on at school. My sister did well, but my brother was getting chronically bullied, hated school, was always skiving. And then she's like, yeah, but your brother and sister are doing well, so you can go there. And like, I hated that choice, but it was so rough. There was a guy that I had like issues with there that we were always fighting, and he's now serving time in prison for murdering
Wow.
someone. So it gives you an idea of the type of people that went to that school.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like council areas surrounding that. So yeah, it was like, that was my surroundings. It's
Yeah.
like kids that smoked at like 12 years old, like, and doing drugs and drinking alcohol, and
Yeah.
they're like at school.
I mean, I can relate. I grew up in Croydon, and for anyone that knows Croydon, I mean, people laugh
Yeah.
about it now. It's all over the news. It's all over the internet. Croydon is not the most scenic places in the
Yeah.
UK to grow up in, and so again, surrounded by all of that, teenage pregnancies, kids smoking at a very, very young age, fights all the time, and I vividly recall fights at school with teachers, with the college
Yeah.
kids. I
All
mean,
the time.
we were 13, 14, fighting guys who were
Yeah.
17, 18 years old, um, fighting with the police,
Yeah.
having helicopters and police dogs outside
Yeah.
school pretty much every week, known for conflict with all the other schools. And as you can imagine, living in an area like that, you've got 5 or 6 schools where you've got some pretty dangerous
Yeah.
kids, like, and then as time went on, I mean, when I first went to school, it was fist fights, right? You'd have a punch up, life goes on.
Yeah.
Then the triads and the
Yeah.
gang culture started coming in. And then it was the time when you would get the influx of immigration coming. So you'll have the Afghanis, and
Yeah.
the Home Office was based in Croydon. So you'll have the Afghanis, you'll have the Serbians, the Bosnian war.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of people that would come in. And of course, these guys have grown up seeing violence.
Do you
So
know?
violence was normal for them.
Do you know what was funny though? In Northampton, I remember because there was a lot of Pakistani kids that were like kind of first generation UK, but like obviously their family had moved over here. I was really good friends with a Nigerian guy called Hamza, and it was funny. It was like, I don't even know how we were in the same year. The guy was an absolute unit, mate. Like he was a specimen, and we're like, how are you? How am I 13 and look like this, and
Mhm.
you're
Mhm.
13 and you look like that? But and it wasn't them that were the issue though, because like, you hear it now and you say that, oh, the immigration and this and that and the other. It was actually just the poor kids.
Yeah.
They were just so rough. And like, I remember once I've actually got a scar, and it looks like a bit like a birthmark on my side. Again, I don't even think my mum knows about this, but I got attacked with a hammer.
Wow.
And this one kid was just going loose in a place called Standers Barn, and he swung this hammer at me, and luckily it missed me, but the back of a hammer where you pull the
Yeah,
nails out, it
yeah.
just caught the side and like took all the skin off, like little like things like that. About 13 years old, 14 years old, getting attacked by hammers. My brother got stabbed in the leg with some scissors at school. Some kids rubbed table salt in his eyes once. Like, it's just nasty.
Yeah,
Like,
I can
just
definitely relate.
torturous.
Can definitely relate. How does that impact you then going into upper school then? I mean, clearly this is where the bullies reside. You're now in this kind of survival mode
Yeah.
mechanism. How does that prepare you
It's
for
horrible,
the
man. I
rest?
hated school. Hated school. Hated it so much. Like, especially the lad that I had beef with as well,
Yeah.
lad called Stephen. It slowed down after a while though, because I just battered him every time. So it made it a little bit easier because he just knew that every time we fought, it didn't matter how many people he brought along, I'd always end up beating him up. So it was a lot easier to deal with. But all of his friends around me were like constantly trying it. Like, I remember once I was dating this one girl, and it was just like we just started talking. I think we'd kissed once, and her brother just side like hit me from the side without even looking, and just caught me off guard. And I remember just sitting in like the little nurse's room, and you could see the reception, and the kids knew that you could see from there. So all the kid that did it and his friends were like, "Yeah, we're gonna get you after school." Like, it was just torturous. Like, it wasn't enjoyable at all. So I think with all that, I think saying it out loud, and I haven't, like, although I've done therapy, I haven't reflected this deeply. But when I'm saying out loud, I think the combination of the dad situation, the combination of a new man in the household, the combination of my mum not really being around, plus the combination of school, you can see that I'm obviously building up a lot of anger
Yeah.
within. And that's when it all started to like come out. And I was always very protective. As I said, like, me and my brother have a really close relationship, same with my sister and stuff. But whenever the protection side of things came out for them, I felt like I was the one that kind of needed to protect them in a sense. Maybe that's not how it seems from the outside, but from me, it felt like, I remember once, like, little situations where, for example, my best friend who I grew up with, he's like quite short. I remember being in town with him one time, and this kid was like giving it to him. I just went up, headbutted this guy, just saw my friend in
Yeah.
some sort of situation, and just lost my head. Like, So it was just, yeah, it was just a culmination of just
I suppose with all those
anger.
things, yeah, with all those things coming into fruition, the only outlet you would have had would have been anger. Um, how, if anything, was there not how? In fact, let me rephrase. Was there any place where you found solace during that period of time?
Drugs, drinking,
Hmm.
um, sex.
At what age are we talking about here?
I lost my virginity when I was like 14.
Okay.
Um, like needless, like not needless, sorry, but like casual relationships. Like, I mean, 14, you shouldn't really be doing that. But
Mm.
again, no real role figure. And I just thought it was cool to just be like having casual relationships. But yeah, I drank a lot, like weekend casual drinking, and then recreational drugs.
Where would you go to drink and get access to these
So I
things?
first started drinking when I was about 13. You know, things where you'd go to the park, for example, and someone had a fake ID so you could get like a bottle of vodka.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where one of my friends' dads used to buy me 3 liters of cider on a
Three
Friday.
liters.
Yeah, and I'd drink it, just walking around drinking it. Um, Again, like my mum had no clue because I'd go in and like if I went home, I'd eat like some Monster Munch or some really smelly crisps, so you
Yeah.
couldn't necessarily smell the alcohol. And it got to a point where I did it so much that I kind of didn't even get drunk that much from it. So, but that was regular.
Mm.
And then when I got to the point where I could go out, I would obviously go out and get blind drunk as well. And I think that was the kind of outlet of, and then work as well. Got my first job when I was 14,
Doing what?
working in a kitchen. Yeah, that's how the whole chefing thing came around. So, so I distracted myself with work, alcohol, smoking, casual relationships, and then recreational
I
drugs.
see. You mentioned the protection thing. Something happened that really kind of triggered you even more.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, can we touch on that?
Yeah, so when I was 16, again, my sister had been going out. Obviously, she's 4 years older than me, yeah. So she would have already been going out. So when I was 16, she'd have been around kind of
20.
19, 20. Yeah. Um, and I could like get into clubs. So one night I actually went to meet her after work. And yeah, we're in this bar. And next thing you know, I turn around, she's like screaming. And all I see is this Polish guy with his hands up her skirt, and then it's all kicked off.
Wow.
The guy's punched me, and then I was like, "What's going on?" And she's like, basically, the guy forced his
Fingers,
fingers
yeah.
up her skirt, and she was devastated, and that was like combined with the fact that guy punched me square in the face as well. I was raging, and there was a few other guys there at the same time. And once he'd got kicked out, and once it all the commotion had died down, we, me and a few other lads went outside, and I said to the bouncers, "Where's that guy gone?" And he's like, "He's down there." So I ran, chased this guy, and from the top of the street, and I remember it very vividly. I was like, it was like this road, and anyone from Northampton knows, go down Bridge Street, and then you've got the road that just gets to Morrison's, and it's like probably 100 meters of road, and then you get to some traffic lights. He's by the traffic lights, and I'm obviously shouting, "Oh!" Like, and he's going, "Come on, come on!" So I just ran like a full pelt and just connected so clean with a punch, knocked him down, and just didn't stop. Just didn't, like, full on scrapping. Um, just properly just battered the guy, like, and it got to the point that the only reason we stopped is because we heard police sirens, and my friends are like, "We need to go."
Hmm.
So we basically like ran and was getting chased by the police and was hiding, because we basically got cornered off, and then they arrested us. And it was funny because the guy, I used to do like martial arts when I was younger. So my mum got us into doing like taking care of ourselves, because obviously during the time where we were getting bullied at school and stuff, my mum's like, "Okay, we need to do something about this, self defense. So if anyone starts
Yeah.
on you, you know what to do." So I get sat in this police cell after being arrested. The guy who's interviewing me, I know him because his son goes to martial arts with me.
Right.
So before he even starts the tape, he's like, just so you know, I'm just doing my job. But if I was in the same situation as you,
I would have
I'd
done
have
the
done
same.
exactly the same thing. And I think because of the situation, I ended up getting away with it and just having a caution. But ultimately, it was on my record, and a few other things happened post that, and then it just all got brought together in the end, and they just saw me as this violent guy that just fights when he goes out, and they tried to throw the book at me.
Okay.
So yeah,
Talk to us a little bit to that. I don't want to delve too much into the legal system or the implications of it thereof. But so they tried to put you in jail.
yeah. So there's a few other situations that happened quite closely after that. So um, there was an issue with a guy and my brother, and it all kicked off, and then I was the one that ended up getting arrested for it. And then there was another time again on a night out, drinking alcohol, just emotions just exploding. Um, and me and this guy had a fight. He didn't want to press charges, but because the police had it all on camera, they wanted to prosecute me for a fray because they had evidence. So even though the guys didn't want to press charges, they were like, "Nah, this is your third time. We're coming for you
Yeah.
now." Um, so that's how it all originally happened. But in a nutshell, it was a very traumatic time. However, it definitely needed to happen. Like I don't know how I would be now if I wasn't forced to confront these
Hmm.
emotions. And I remember when I came, like I basically went to like the Crown Court and stuff, and they're like, we're gonna adjourn until sentencing. So you leave and you get briefed with the solicitors, and they're like, look, um, they're looking at sentencing you to 2 years in prison. Um, so you need to go away and figure out how you can justify to these guys that
You're
the
not what they
jury,
say.
not the jury, but it was like a crown, like it was three people.
Crown prosecution courts usually, yeah, you get a couple of lawyers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, so he was like, "You've basically got to show that you're like a reformed character." And I went away, and my mum kind of helped me get a solicitor to try and go through it all. But it was nasty, man, because like I had to like see all of this camera footage,
Hmm.
and it wasn't good.
Of
Like
you fighting.
of me fighting, it was like I lost control. Like every time these things happened, I wasn't in control.
Mm.
Like I just wasn't. It was almost like the monkey brain had taken over, and I was just like a primal kind of like animal just reacting to a situation. I had no recollection of what would happen, or it just
Because
happened.
it was drunken. How did you feel watching that back? Like what
It was
emotions did that
difficult.
drive?
It was difficult because it wasn't who I was. Like I wasn't that guy. Like I wasn't a violent person, you know. But my actions were coming out as violent. Um, but anyways, the solicitors said, "Look, you've got to go. I want you to go see anger management. I want you to go see like a therapist for like basically Alcoholics Anonymous, and let's find out like what's going on." And talk about finding yourself. Like, oh God, I hadn't really cried like for a long time, but this lady, I can't. It's kind of feel silly now not remembering who she was, because she saved me. She said like she almost saved my life. Like because I'd go and meet her, and every time it would just end up in me crying my eyes out.
Mm.
Like she just helped me uncover all these emotions, and yeah, she honestly saved me so much, because I told her everything. Like I told her about everything in my life that was going on. The dad situation, at the time I'd just lost my nan, um, the home
Yeah.
situation, getting kicked out all the time because obviously I was very disruptive. My mum didn't know how to deal with me, so she'd kick me out, and I'd live with my best mate, and then all these situations were happening in between. Um, so it was just like I was just confused boy that just didn't know how to deal with his emotions, and yeah, like she really helped me kind of like get to the bottom of what was going on. And there was just so much pain, mate. Like
Mm.
I was just experiencing so much at that particular time. And because I'd let it all boil up for so long, eventually I explode. And what encouraged the explosion even more was the alcohol, you know, getting blind drunk and not having control of your emotions. Um, and yeah, I really had to face it, man. And it went on for about 6 months. But yeah, I remember the day where we have to go to the court and my family were there and I walk in and they put me in this glass box. And I remember looking down and it was the stairs basically down to go and take it off to prison. So to the right is like the door, that's freedom. The stairs is prison. And I'm just sitting there. And it was like a true moment of reflection because first of all, I'd been doing all this therapy with the counselors, working on obviously like the issues in my drinking. And I was just like, I've just ruined my life. Like I've literally ruined my life. No one's gonna want to employ me after I've gone to prison. Like, what's my life even gonna look like? And I just remember sitting there, my head was down the whole time. I just remember crying because I knew I in my mind I'd ruined my life. I thought I was going to prison for 2 years. They were portraying me to be this violent guy because they didn't mention about my sister getting sexually assaulted. They m- they they talk about the the damage I did to this guy because at the time we'd broke his eye socket, his cheekbone, his teeth, like we like his art, like we'd done so like it was like what we did to him was like pretty bad.
Mm.
So they're just portraying me as this violent guy that shouldn't be in the public realm, and I'm just sitting there thinking like this is not me. And I just kept saying, I remember kept saying like I'm just so sorry, and they're like almost portraying it, you're sorry because you got caught, and I was like, nah, I'm sorry because
I'm genuinely sorry.
I've had to
Yeah, I
go through
realized.
this. And obviously the counselor was there and she gave like obviously like a statement on me as a person, me as a
Hmm.
character. And she basically said like Daniel is what I'm saying to you now is Daniel has has gone through so much trauma through his parents breaking up, not really having a role model in his life. It's kind of a bit traumatic, like
Mm.
going back to it because although I have therapy, still
You could take a moment, mate.
it's still quite painful because my life, mate. Like the time I was so scared, and I was just confused young man, and also all the stuff that I put my parents through. Like it was just hard, man, and yeah, it was hard.
I can I can only imagine the burden that leaves on a man having to go through living life basically as a shadow of what he really should be. And it
Mm.
sounds like there was a lot of promise. It sounds like you could have made something. It sounds like you had great ambition, wanting to go to the Northampton School for Boys, where you could be in this environment of excellence. But life basically does what life does and worked against you in so many formats. Um, I know through personal story and through many, many, many men that I've spoken to and many men that I've coached and listened to that there are stories like this all over the place, all over the
Mm.
world, and we get written off and get written off, and we never get an outlet. So I'm so glad that you are, and I can see the pain. I can feel the pain.
Do you know what? To this day, mate, I feel like to this day, I feel like I still cover up that moment of my life. It was such a like shit part. Like, although like for me, and I think this is probably part of like me as a person is I'm always looking forward. Like I remember when I first moved to Dubai, I would have nightmares that I would lose it all. Like I had nightmares, like honestly, and I'd wake up and I'd just think like, I don't want that life ever again. You know, I don't want to ever go back there. It was just such a bad time. And as I said, like going back to the situation when I was in the courtroom, like hearing my mum and my sister and everyone there, just like I can't even remember if my dad was even there or not, but like there's just hearing my mum sob, and that that was all caused by me. Like my actions, regardless of if I was protecting. The third time was inexcusable because it was just a stupid fight. But like all that trauma that I'd caused to to my family for, it was just I just didn't need to do it. And but yeah, there's stuff that happened, and it's just I think I'm 36 now, and I don't know if I ever want to have children. I think maybe some part of me is kind of a bit like almost scared,
Mm.
because it's like I don't want to create a child that then potentially would go through, what I would go through. And it's not like I'm saying all my childhood memories are bad. Like I had some really fun childhood memories, but that teenage years was just like it was just a roller coaster, mate. It's like I look back on my life now and I think I doesn't even like the life that I have now and the person who I am. It doesn't even the
Totally
young kid
polar.
doesn't even resonate with who I am.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I would hasten to say you were always who you are.
Yeah.
And just life causes you to sometimes be blinded because there's so much noise, especially in today's world, especially growing up in an environment where there is the noise of drugs and sex and just being outside and in the wrong environments, having to fight for your survival. And I say all that to say that I grew up in a very, very similar environment. And as a father of two incredible young boys now, I would say this to you is fatherhood gives you something, which is the opportunity to rewrite your story. Because what you're doing is you're building a legacy. And in essence, the fear of those children living the life that you live is a choice that you have to make. Is, do I expose them to that kind of life?
Yeah.
Or do I ensure that they understand all the values of being a good pillar of society, of being a good man or woman, of making the right choices, of understanding the fruitfulness of what life is or could be, and trying to the best of your ability to create environments that those things exist for them to grow up in. So I absolutely hear you in the fears there.
Yeah.
But as a living testament, I would say that my one driving force now is to create the kind of fruitful environment that my boys will grow up in and become awesome individuals. And that's all I dream of. And that's all I can dream of. Do everything within my control. Outside of that, I can't control, but do everything within my control.
Sorry, do you mind if I get a tissue, please?
Sure.
I did not expect to cry today. Jesus.
It's
Thank you.
it's okay. I mean, I needed it. This whole mentality is built on this, right? It's built on the strength of vulnerability. It's built on the strength of the realization that it's okay not to be okay. And it's okay to understand the journey that you've come through. The beautiful thing about it is you're still here and you can be in the present and you can make changes moving forward. I listened to a podcast a few weeks ago where they were describing trauma. And trauma isn't necessarily the things that we've been through, it's the lasting impact that it leaves on you. Just the Greek translation of trauma is the wound that remains after the actual incident, right? So it's not what everyone says, it's traumatic because I've gone through it. No, it's what impact it has on you and how that reflects throughout all your other experiences. So trauma doesn't necessarily always leave you. It remains.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And this moment that we've shared is that rearing itself, but it doesn't mean you have to sit in it. It doesn't mean, of course, remember it because it'll drive you, but it doesn't mean that you have to remain in it. And I think it's healthy.
Yeah, it's very true because like I think part of the reason why I'm so driven is because I don't want to go back to like what the life was before, you know.
Mm,
I think it was such a turning point in my life to realize that once your freedom is so close to being taken away, it just there's no other way but just to
yeah.
move forward and move forward for the positive.
So in moving forward, then, you didn't end up in jail.
Yeah.
Um, what happens next?
So when they actually read out the sentencing, they were like, "We're going to sentence you to 2 years in prison," and the whole room just went silent, and I was just like crying. My mum starts crying, like my mum was like violently sobbing, um, and then just out of nowhere, this guy goes, "But we're going to suspend it for 2 years. You're gonna have to do 250 hours community service, and you're gonna have to have probation for a year. Go and see probation officer." Um, but as I said, that was the turning point for me, and I just made sure that I was so well behaved that I didn't even have to do the community service in the
Mm,
end. I got signed off after about 50 hours. Um, and the probation officer signed me off and said, like, yeah, basically, I'm a reformed character.
hmm
And that was a turning point. You know, I doubled down on my education, which was at the time training to be a chef. Ended up getting a job working for Gary Rhodes in London as a Michelin star restaurant. So yeah, that was cool because I was obviously still really young. Um, some of my summers I would go and travel
hmm
in Greece and spend the summer there. So I really kind of like almost grasped life at this point and made the most of it. Um, but during that whole time, I always thought like, you know, as I said, because at the beginning when I was at work experience, I got a job in the kitchen because I remember seeing the sheet and I was like admin, admin, admin,
hmm
restaurant. I thought, oh, that's cool. I like food. Let's do
Yeah.
this. And my mum was obviously a big cook, so loved food, and I loved it. And then she's like, "Do you know what? Do you want to work for us on the weekend?" And it got to a point where I was finishing school, and then I would go and work there on a Monday evening, a Friday, and a Saturday
In the
uh,
kitchen.
in the kitchen after school. And I loved it. I honestly loved it. It was like the independence, the community, what I was in. And these guys were a little bit older than me as well. So it was quite cool. They took me under their wing. Sometimes not all the best wings, but they did nonetheless. And I just loved cooking. So that's what I doubled down on. But then when I worked in London and I was in this Michelin star restaurant, it was working in a Michelin star restaurant and being a Michelin star chef. You're like, this is the pinnacle. This is what we all aspire to.
hmm
And I hated it.
Why?
It was just relentless, relentless with little but no reward. Like you can imagine living in London, I was getting paid £800 a month. Most of that was going on my room and my
hmm
transport. I had no money left. And I thought, why am I getting myself into debt just to work in a fine dining restaurant? And if I don't want this now, am I going to want it in 20 years, 10
hmm
years, 15, however many years? So, and funnily enough, the people that were around me, like the sous chefs and stuff, they all wanted out. They didn't want to be a part of it anymore
Wow.
because they were just like, it's cool to have the title of sous chef or whatever in a Michelin star restaurant, and I work for Gary Rhodes and blah blah blah. But like in reality, like what do I do? I just like claim that I've worked for this guy,
Yeah.
you know, um, or do I actually want to do something in my life? And I think that moment for me was like a turning point because it was quite sad because I'd spent all this time. You imagine, obviously, between the years of all the trouble and stuff, but in this time, I was still a chef
Yeah.
and still working and going to college and stuff. Uh, and then all that work for like nothing. I was like, oh God, like didn't really know what to do. And it wasn't in the era of like transferable skills.
hmm
It was very much in the you've trained to do this, you should stick at doing it. I
That's going to
remember
be the career.
recruiters tell me like there's no way anyone's going to recruit you. You just may as well stick to being a chef because you've got no experience. Like
hmm
what can you do? Um, but then after a few years, I mean, in this time, I was like teaching myself how to DJ and all this sort of stuff. So I was like, I kind of like had to be doing something.
Yeah.
Um, so even when I was working in kitchens, I would DJ in bars and stuff like that. And and then yeah, and then I found sales, got into sales, started
Mm-hmm.
selling cars, did really well with that, but then handled a bit of rejection with the customers, struggled, didn't really come back from it. So like, and I didn't like the environment, so I moved on to work for a different company selling furniture. Then I got into selling property. And I was like, wow, like I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah.
You know, I would go into DFS, who was at the time, you know, still probably is the largest residential
Furniture, yeah.
manufacturer for
Yeah.
furniture.
Yeah.
And I would like, I was breaking records left, right, and center. Like it was ridiculous. And all the groups that I was training in, my numbers were like double what theirs were. So it was
Mm.
like, I just loved it. And the whole people part was where I was like kind of like getting to like meet people and talk to people, and everyone had their own different things and stuff, and I just loved it. And then quickly came to realize that if I really wanted to make some progress in DFS, I'd probably have to hypothetically kill someone. So I thought, well, I'll go and try something else. Got into property,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, in the property side of things, I think my first month I'd sold like 15 houses.
Wow.
Never done sales
Wow.
in property before, but I was just smashing it. And I remember there was this one guy, because it was quite a big firm called William H. Brown. And there was this one guy who was in the town centre branch that smashed it. And then all of a sudden, my name starts getting closer and closer and closer to his. And I'm just in this like shitty little office in like the outskirts of Northampton, and I'm smashing it. And everyone's like looking at me like, oh, like this is pretty decent. Like this guy is like doing well. But again, it was like I wasn't truly feeling fulfilled, and I was still trying to find myself. And then Dubai came around.
How did it come around?
So I was selling property. Northampton's a good place to invest for London, so I was meeting a lot of people from Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first time I heard about Dubai. And then off the back of that, real estate's massive here, so I got offered a job doing real estate out in Dubai. Do nothing about. I remember sitting in the car, and this guy's like texting me like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna manage Jumeirah Park," and this is before Jumeirah Park's like Jumeirah Park.
Yeah.
I'm trying to spell Jumeirah Park. Couldn't find anything on it, and I'm like, "Is this a scam? Am I gonna get there and it's gonna be like ridiculous?" But I remember sitting again, my best mate who I spoke about, who I grew up with, and I remember sitting with him and just saying like, "What do you think?" And although we were best friends and I've known him since I was 8 months old, we lived very different lives.
Okay.
He has been with one woman, had kids with her, and like that's his story. I was like the wild child that did everything and anything. But I remember sitting down with him, and he was like, if I could go back and get an opportunity like this without obviously
The story, the journey,
everything
to
that's
it.
in here, like where my life is now, I'd take it. But I'm too deep into my situation, so like you don't have any responsibilities, so go and live your life, basically. Go
What's the worst
enjoy
that
it.
can happen?
Exactly. He said, and that's what he said. And then also kind of like spoke to my mum. I was like, what do you think? She's like, well, look, if it doesn't work out, you know, then Northampton's always going to be here. And funnily enough, like, I think she says this, and she always says to me now, she's like, if anyone can do it, you can. And like, I'm pretty sure she said those words to me, and I just thought, let's go. So I just accepted this offer, came out to Dubai and tried to figure it out.
Bright lights.
Yeah, man. I remember walking out of the airport and it was like, bang, like it was just like this brick wall of heat. I was like, what is this? And I remember everyone saying to me like, oh, it's expensive living in Dubai. And I was like, I'll find a deal somewhere. I didn't find any deal.
How did you navigate those first few years?
So living in the maid's room for the first couple of weeks to get myself sorted, and then found an apartment with one of my mates, and then got some other people to move in. And it was like a 3-bed with a maid's, but 4 of us lived there, and we basically used to rotate the maid's room because we were all trying to like build something and try and be successful. So like we couldn't always afford to stay in the bigger room. So whoever stayed in the maid's room paid less that month.
Right.
So like if we were struggling a couple of months, we'd be like, okay, I'll take it
the maid room.
for the maid's room for a couple of months. But it was a lot of fun, man. It was like we were hustlers and we're always working hard, but we partied hard as well.
As you do when you come to Dubai for
Lots of
a young man in
partying,
Dubai.
lots of fun every
Yeah.
weekend, going to brunches, boat parties and stuff. And then after the kind of like first few years, and then moving out of that apartment, I moved in with another friend, and it was a
Mhm.
little bit less party vibes. So like it was time to like double down. And I was about 27 and really just locked in
Yeah.
and just focused on business and career. And I never imagined being able to have my own business because, as I said, I come from a working class family. So it was never one day you'll start your own business, son.
Yeah.
It was like, no, go and join a corporate, get a good salary, get on the career ladder.
Which you did.
Yeah, which I did, yeah. And then, but yeah, it was. It is funny how it has all happened because I look back on the whole journey and it was almost like it was written out by somebody,
Mm.
you know, because I did well in the career, built a business to, turning over 240 million dirhams, and it's still growing. But in that period, there was a lot of kind of, let's say, conflict between me and one of the senior people. So then the original kind of story was I wanted to start a podcast to help the company be the industry leaders and all that sort
Yeah.
of stuff. But then I kind of was getting second guessed by someone in the business saying that you're just doing this for your own profile, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, and it kept coming up in meetings. And I thought, do you know what? Like, I don't even enjoy this discussion anyway. So I don't even want to be the industry leader anymore. I'm going to remove everything to do with the business and I'm going to just do
Do it
my
for
own
myself,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah. And just talk to the people that I want to talk to. And ultimately, that's what led me to give me the belief that I could do my own thing
Mhm.
because I was interviewing all these people and I was like, this guy's no different from me.
Yeah.
Like we're the same people.
Yeah.
It's just that they've gone off and done something with an idea. So, and then it all coincidentally happened with,
COVID. Who would you say some of the most inspiring people you had on your podcast were?
founder of Reebok.
Okay.
Yep. Joe Foster. Very nice guy. Like madness when you think about it. Like we all want instant success. It took that guy about 25 years. His daughter died in that period. And then just in the 80s when the kind of spandex and like the Mr. Motivator vibes
Yeah.
were coming in, that it just exploded. And then became $1 billion business. So that was very inspirational. There was a lady called Tulsi. She had survived a plane crash
Wow.
back in the 90s, but she lost her mum, dad, brother, like all of her
Wow.
family. That was very heartwarming. There was another lady called Anna. She was a domestic violence survivor. But like, when I say domestic violence, so like some people might listen to what like this story and really feel for my mum, and all domestic violence is bad, but
Yeah.
hers was on a different level. She was tortured
Wow.
and she was able to like come out the other side. And we still keep in touch now. She's such a nice girl. So I think everyone inspires me in their own ways. There was a guy that I've just interviewed that rode across the Atlantic. Again, super crazy mindset to be able to do that for like 59 days, I think it was in total. So I love it. Like I talk to everyone. Your story with your upbringing, like your struggles with your mum, like
Yeah.
everyone in their own right is an
Yeah.
inspiration to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's been a few.
Amazing. Fast forward, you're in your kitchen mixing up a concoction.
Yeah.
Andsom.
Yeah.
Talk about the name and then talk about how this brand has kind of now
Yeah.
become your pillar, become the thing that you drive.
Yeah. Mate, I'm so lucky, like honestly, because I think it's just mad. Like, I was checking our retention rate the other day and it's like we've got so many people that come back and buy again and again and again. And there's one guy that we've been going for 20 months trading now, yeah.
Mm.
and there's one guy that's ordered 18 times from us.
Wow.
So it's like, I was always so scared about the first order, and then I got the second, and then I got the repeat and stuff like that. So we've been able to create an amazing product. I say we. I always say this because people are like, "Who's the second person?"
Yeah.
And it's my brain.
Yeah.
Like I always refer to
I'm
me
the same.
as my brain. Like
Yeah.
so, it's like us. We're in it together. But yeah. So I'd had these reactions, and I'd never really had bad skin, like even as a teenager. And then I started dating this girl who was like, try these products out, because I was a typical guy. Like I would go to the shop and get Nivea or
Yep.
whatever, and not really know that what it was doing for my skin. So, and also the ingredients. But these products made me come out in some seriously like bad acne, like juicy
Mhm.
spots on my temples and
Mhm.
stuff. And like most men, I've got quite oily skin. So I was just reacting so badly. And I'd done a podcast with a blood sugar coach who was talking about, he used to run like a wellness retreat in Thailand.
Okay.
And he basically said to me that if you don't understand the ingredient, neither does your body. And when I was going through all these reactions, I was just like, do you know what? I'm going to check the ingredients. When I checked the ingredients, like the first couple checked out, and then I found one called phenoxyethanol. Yeah. It's two compounds that are toxic combined together that make a preservative that stop bacteria from growing, but it's only approved up to 1% concentration, because anything more than that can be toxic to the human body.
Right.
I was like, why is this in why is this in nappies? Why is this in skincare? Why is this in shower gel, shampoos? Like,
Yeah.
we're literally lathering on our
crazy.
body. And everybody's heard about parabens and how parabens got banned.
Mhm.
Phenoxyethanol just replaced parabens, and they're claiming that it's okay. And like you'll see like on all of the governing bodies that claim to certify natural ingredients, guess what they've got? An exclusions list. Why have they got an exclusion list? Well, my assumption would be, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Can you just make sure that this is on your exclusion list, and we'll make sure we make donations to you every single year? Now, I don't know if that's true, but there's no explanation to me as to why some of these ingredients are on an
Replace toxic
exclusion
with
list.
toxic.
Yeah, why that doesn't need to be in the products. Like for
Yeah.
us, we use a root extract, which, if you've all heard of the terminology of kimchi, right? It's like
Mhm.
when you have
Fermented.
kimchi, it's
Yeah.
fermenting and it preserves, and it's also a good probiotic for the gut, right? So we basically do the same thing for our preservatives, but for skincare. So it
Right.
preserves the product. It doesn't preserve it for as long, so it lasts for around 2 years unopened. But as soon as the air hits, it lasts for 6 months.
Okay.
So shorter shelf life. So it is possible. But anyways, I was coming up with all these ideas, and like it all was stemmed off the back of that. And it was like, I'd then find another ingredient that was an emulsifier in paint. And it was just like they would put silicones in moisturizers to help retain the moisture. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like what, how is this even allowed?
Mm.
And you look at, I mean, when I was a kid, you never heard of kids dying of cancer. It was unheard of. It was like old people.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And as now, you get kids that are born with all types of issues, and unfortunately, like kids dying of like cancers and stuff at a young age, and these chronic diseases. And I think it's personally down to two things: one, what we eat; two, what we put onto our skin.
I agree.
Because the skin is our body's mouth, basically. Anything that goes into the skin
Yeah.
will be in your bloodstream within around 15 seconds. So what goes on goes in.
Mhm.
So, and I think it's a big problem, man. I think it's really like, there's loads of studies with an ingredient called phthalates. Yeah. Phthalates is what stick, like that you get them in perfumes,
Right.
but they stick to the skin to make sure that your scent lasts for a longer period of time. However, also toxic to the human body, can really affect your hormones. In women, can mimic estrogen. Now,
Wow.
obviously, if we have high levels of estrogen, what does that do? Makes us at higher risk of having breast cancer.
Mhm.
Like, it's just crazy, like the stuff that the beauty industry is actually getting away with right now. So I threw all my consumer products away, started ordering the raw ingredients, and I would use, like, because I love coffee, so I would use all the coffee granules from my coffee.
Scrubs, yeah.
I'd mix it with olive oil, aloe vera gels, and
Yeah.
I'd start to slowly like play around with doing a little scrub, a moisturizer, tried making serums. And then I would like say to my friends, like, why don't you try this and let me know what you think? And then got some good reactions and people like, oh, can you make some for my friends, etc. And I was like, maybe there's some legs in this.
Mm.
So I went to some beauty world expos, went to meet different manufacturers from all over the world, and said, this is the formula of what I want to make. Like, I need you to help with the concentrations and manufacture this so I can actually make it a retail product.
Yeah.
And then we were able to launch in 2024, got voted skincare brand of the year in our first year.
Incredible.
And then just last week, I was actually speaking at Beauty World on a panel discussion about men's grooming.
Isn't that incredible how that journey comes so far from being in a place where you thought, no, I don't have anything that I can aspire to,
Yeah.
to now being on stage talking about something that you've built.
Yeah, 100%. It was crazy because even when I went to Beauty World to find manufacturers, the men's segment was non-existent.
I would still argue that it's virtually non-existent. There's a few more brands now, but it's virtually non-existent. And it's
Yeah.
not because men don't take care of themselves. Men take care of, I mean, at least the men that I encounter take care of themselves more so than they ever have.
Yeah.
But it's just, there's no choice and there's no knowledge. And I think
Yeah.
that's the bridge that you're kind of building, is the access to knowledge and understanding
Yeah.
of what we put on our skin.
Well, you work in the field of the ad space, yeah?
Yeah.
So the first thing you will tell to your clients is like, who is your customer?
Yeah.
Who are they? And I answered this question, I got asked this question, is like, what's been the shift? And what I said to them is like, we was surrounded by all these kiosks and stuff. And I said to everyone in the audience, I was like, because I think the question was like, why do you think skincare has predominantly been focused? Like, why do women consume more skincare than men? And I said to everyone, I said, look around us. Tell me what stand looks like it could be marketed to men. You've got this purple, this pink,
Yeah.
this fluorescent. That doesn't speak to me.
No.
And this is why men think skincare is girly, because nothing speaks to them. So my job was to make sure that I could speak to a man like me. And this is why I did a men's brand, is because I'm not a woman, so I don't know what women want. I've been with my girlfriend 3 years and sometimes I still don't know what she wants.
I don't think you ever will, mate.
But I feel like we're quite simple creatures. And for us, we just have to think, like, first of all, it needs to be simple. Can't be over complex, can't be like all this jargon of X, Y, and Z. You have to make it simple. You have to make sure that it speaks to men. And that's just one thing that I just made sure that I dialed in when I started this brand. Is like, it has to speak to men. Like, it has to resonate with us.
Which it does. And I think that leads me back to the question I had in the beginning, which is, why the name andsom?
So this is, I don't think I've ever publicly actually acknowledged this, but I was very close to calling it Hey Handsome.
Okay.
And again, I spoke with a friend, and I've always been quite good with opening up and talking about these things.
Yeah.
So I said to one of my friends she had a very successful marketing business, and I said to her, like, what do you think to this? She's like, let me ask some friends.
Yeah.
And the consensus was it didn't speak to a certain type of consumer that I wanted to approach.
Okay.
It only spoke to one demographic of men.
Okay.
So I decided, okay, I still want to have that, like, I still need it to feel, I don't want it to be like some cringy, like, nah. And there was like, I think we came up with about 150 names. So I ended
Wow.
up working with a branding agency on this because I just couldn't, I just needed some expert help. And they were like, okay, what names do you like? So I came up with some ideas, put it forward to them. And then they came up with about 150 names. And the only one that stuck out was andsom. And I thought, do you know what? I always wanted handsome to be a part of the name, but why don't we just have it as andsom? The logo is ampersand SOM. And it's like, people look at it and they're like, andsom.
But you get it.
Handsome. And then it's like, it just straight away, it creates that moment of like, I'll always be remembered because people won't recognize it at the beginning. But when they do, they'll be like, that's so clever, you know? And you listen to a lot of experts now that say you need to have that moment. And I feel like that's our moment, you know.
Yeah. I find myself looking at, because I've got some of the products at home, and I find myself looking at it and always reverting back to it every now and then. And every time I go back to the packaging, that aha moment of handsome
Yeah.
always comes up. So no, it's really good. Are there any? I mean, is there anyone now that you would say is helping shape you as an entrepreneur?
I wouldn't say anybody's helping me shape as an entrepreneur. I'm just trialing different things and failing a lot to
Hmm.
then realize what's the right thing to do. And I think this is one thing that I wasn't really aware of when I first launched a business, is like I was scared of failure, but I feel like you just have to embrace it because this is how you learn.
Yeah,
I can sit and speak to somebody and say they say do this, do that, but in reality you won't learn from that. What you learn from is what works and what doesn't work,
absolutely,
especially when it comes to your own money as well. So when you're
absolutely.
doing something that doesn't work, you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. So I would say, I mean, there was so much stuff that happened before launching that went wrong,
Hmm.
you know, that taught me a valuable lesson. And there's stuff that happens every day that I'm like, wow, I need to make note of that and make sure that doesn't happen again. Um, and that comes down to the brand, how we market it, the team,
Hmm.
what I do to encourage them to 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 get the best out of them, all these different things.
Yeah,
So I would say failing is honestly my biggest mentor right now.
amazing. Just before we wrap up, there's always two questions that we have at the end, but just before we get to those, I'd like you to look into that camera,
This
and
one.
that one straight ahead, and speak to 10-year-old Daniel Leese.
Yeah,
And the reason I want you to do that is,
you want to make me cry again.
no, um, I want the next 10-year-old Daniel Leese to listen to this and be inspired by your story. What would you say to 10-year-old Daniel Leese
Yeah.
about what life is going to be like later on?
Well, you know what? Um, life wasn't as we expected it. But I'm proud of the person that you are, the person that you helped me be, despite our, let's say, orga- organic, is that the right word to say? But like, weird way of where we got to today. We got there eventually, and everything that happened to us will happen for a reason, so that we were on a bit of a greater path later on. Um, I'm sorry I put you through some of the stuff that you went through, all these emotions that you had to bottle up, and not express, and then what we actually went through in that period of time. But the most important thing is that deep down, we are good hearted people, and we've got a good heart with good intentions. And I just want to thank you for that. And I hope that I've made you proud.
Love that. Now, the two questions that we always ask every guest that comes on the Mental Notes podcast. First being, if there was anybody who you could see sat in the seat that you are in now, who would it be? Who should we have sat down in that seat telling their story next?
As in for the next guest.
It could be for anyone.
Say that again.
Who would you like to see sat in the seat that you're sat in telling their story?
Um, I'd love my sister to be able to talk a bit more openly about what she went through. Obviously, I'm talking from my perspective, but my sister went through some traumatic circumstances herself. One being the one we've already spoken about. Um, I lost my cousin last year as well. I'd love to be able to get her back in my life because I feel like we were so close, and only after she's passed, my auntie spoke about how fond of me she was, and I just wish I made more of an effort to spend more time with her, than I did. But it's obviously it's a lot easier in hindsight to say
Mm.
these things. It's just about making sure that with the other people in my life. I've got to make the most of my time with
Absolutely.
them.
Absolutely. What's your sister's name?
Kerry.
Kerry, this is your summons. We're going to get you on here on the Mental Notes podcast. The last question, bit more fun.
Yeah.
3 songs that describe Daniel Leese.
Oh. So one song that I love, Guns N' Roses, November Rain.
Mm-hmm.
I just used to listen to that when I was a kid, when the first MP3 players came out, and it was like a little dongle,
Yeah.
and you didn't have Bluetooth headphones then. It was like the plug-in one.
Plug in, yeah.
I don't know what about that was, but it was just like I feel like it's a very moving song. And obviously November Rain, it's like, it's almost like talking about a time that will pass,
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's very relevant to me because everything in life will pass eventually. Oof. Another song, you're gonna be surprised at this one, but this came on the other day. Michael Bolton,
Okay.
Soul Provider.
Wow.
I used to love listening to that when I was a kid, but no, I think that song reflects the softer side of me,
Mm-hmm.
the more heartfelt version, the more caring side. And then last song, um, another random one, but One Direction called
Interesting.
Still My Girl. And I think that just reason why that reflects me is because it doesn't necessarily, I'm not necessarily referring to the girl element,
Yeah.
but that song sings a lot about protecting the person that's in your life, and they'll be that person
Yeah.
that you'll protect forever.
Yeah.
And nobody else will be able to do that for you. So I think the protector side of me kind of like
Amazing. I'm
speaks
surprised you
out for
didn't
that.
bring up the one from the Streets.
The problem is with that song, it doesn't really it reminds me of like a more of a traumatic side.
I
So
understand,
it doesn't
yeah.
bring. I try and think about things that bring positive light, and
Gotcha.
whereas I think that song for me, whilst I still listen to it, would be like I might even listen to it in the car when I leave here. But like it's just not a happy memory
I
for me,
understand.
Whereas all these songs were like post the stuff that happened.
Yeah. New Age Daniel Leese.
Yeah.
Let me round off by saying thank you. I really appreciate your vulnerability. I appreciate you being unapologetic about your story. I appreciate you coming and really inspiring that you can go from being in a place where things are not okay to actually being like, I'm going to transform, reform, choose resilience, and drive forward and build myself and ultimately build a brand that will live hopefully long after you, and
Yeah.
that will also have a story to tell to many, many, many people. Thank you for coming and making some mental notes with us.
Thank you very much, mate. And as I say to the guys that have made it this far, like you would not believe the fact that if I told you like I never cry. But yeah, that moment was just a raw time. And obviously when we spoke, I said I'm an open book, and when I first started my podcast as well, like I just wanted one conversation to just help one person, and there's so many people, especially in today's age, especially in the UK, for example,
Mhm.
where the only thing that they can see right now is like a life of crime or a life of just pain. But things can turn around. It can be painful. It can be hard. It's not easy, but with the right mentality,
I like what you did there.
it's like you can do it. You just gotta keep pushing forward. There will be ups, there will be downs, probably more downs than ups, but then you just gotta learn from it and just make sure that you become a better person off the back of it.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, man.